Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Parenting and You with me, Dr. Shefali. Now, this episode is really going to resonate with so many of you. Do you know why? It's because it's focused on social media. How do we set boundaries? When do we know when to take away a phone, or when do we know when to give a phone? And how do we help our children navigate the intense attractions and seductions of social media, especially when it affects their mental health? Oh, we're going to tackle all of this and more on this episode of Parenting and You. Coming up, a mother of 4 who says that she is really struggling with not knowing exactly what kind of boundaries to set with her children around social media. Joining me now is Marina. She's the mother of 4 children and is struggling with how to set boundaries, especially when it comes to electronics. Hello, welcome. Tell us what you're going through.
So I am about to give my daughter a cell phone. She's entering high school in grade this September, and I just need your help with what rules and boundaries to put in place, giving her, such a crazy device.
Yep.
A few years ago, all 3 of my kids had iPad. And then I actually did one of your workshops. It was about screens, and I took them away. It was crazy what they went through, the withdrawals they went through. But I took them away, and I told them, I'm like, no screen till teen. But my daughter turned 13 and I still feel like she wasn't ready. And she's like, Mom, I'm 13 now, I'm a teen. And I'm like, you know what? Let's just wait till you go to high school, just continue being a kid. You're doing such a great job. So she's going to high school now, and now it's coming. Like, September's around the corner, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, how do I bring this and give it to her? And what do I say? And, what rules do I put down?
Well, it's so great that you are thinking about this and planning ahead. So the main thing is, are you confident that she can regulate herself? So when you say, okay, get off the phone, or give me your phone, or, charge your phone outside the bedroom, turn off your lights, go to bed, do your homework, do you feel like she is on that rhythm of being able to do that? Because if not, y'all will be fighting the whole time.
So I do. Honestly, she's a fairly responsible little kid. I do feel like she's ready for it. But again, I don't want to make this device entertaining. I want to make it as boring as possible, because I know what it does. Like, I'm a grown adult, and I sometimes get, thrown into this device and I get addicted. So never mind a 14-year-old brain.
Right.
So I'm trying just to make it as boring as possible. Right now, she has a flip phone,
right,
which I wish all parents would just give their kids flip phones, because she just needed to call me, or I needed to call her. And that's all we use it for, right? So she's really good with that. I mean, it's boring. There's nothing to do on it but to call, right?
Right.
And in the meantime, she's also been using my phone. So I've kind of been paying attention to how she's, using that. Her friends text me on my phone. FaceTime's using my phone, and I can see that it's not her priority. Her life doesn't revolve around this phone. Like, my daughter does all kinds of things. She knits, she paints, she does puzzles, she makes sweaters. She has so many other hobbies. So I can see it's not something that I feel will take over, if you know what I mean. So I honestly feel like she's responsible. So I do.
That's great that you feel confident. However, I will let you know, and parents listening, that you need to be cautiously optimistic, because the phone is a beast of its own, as you know, and it is designed to abduct the minds of our children. So no matter what you think, she has not yet encountered the temptations of the phone, and she will become a different person.
Right.
And it will take over. So given that's going to happen, and let's not be naive about it, what are some regulations or boundaries you can put into place so that right from the offset, the child understands, You have the password, the Wi-Fi goes off at this time of the night, the phone needs to be charged outside, there will be no phone until homework and bedtime and mealtime. And if you are in a battle with her, then the phone gets taken away. I think you need to make these things very clear in a contract and keep visiting that contract every month or so, because a beast is coming into your house and no one is prepared for it. And I think you need to be very cautiously wary and very, very intentional about how you present this phone to her. And maybe the first 3 months is a trial period. And then the next 6 months is probation. And like basically the first year is just an experiment. And she needs to know that it will be taken away if she doesn't keep up to her end of the deal. And it won't be her fault that she doesn't keep up. This is how insidious and manipulative these apps are, and the way the phone is designed to create an addiction. So it won't be your child's fault, and it won't be because she's bad. It'll just be because everybody was not prepared enough for it.
Right. Oh, I totally agree. I like how you said having a probation period. I know that, but I think that's really important, and I think I'm going to implement that.
Mm-hmm.
Another question. So my daughter has always been I have a daughter and 3 boys. My other 2 boys are 11 and 12. So they're right under her. It's going to come run after another. Now, the rule in our house, okay, you don't get a cell phone until you get to grade 9.
Mm-hmm.
Now I just thought, well, what if they're in grade 9, the boys, but not quite responsible enough?
Right. That's just a guideline, but it should really be based on whether they have proven themselves, right? So that's why the first question I asked you is, how confident are you? What skills does she already have? So I think for the younger kids, you should let them know it's not an automatic that they're all going to get it at the same time. They have to prove that they are worthy of such a device, which is really a drug. So if you can present it like that, like, I don't want to give you a drug until I can be sure, like I don't give you alcohol, can I be sure that you can get off this drug, and can you take care of yourself? And if you understand that, then you will not give it to everyone at the same time, and they will have to prove their worth to you. And listen, this is all advice coming from someone like me, who is another generation. We've had to learn the hard way. I didn't have anybody to tell me what I'm telling you. So I am cautious with you, and I'm a little bit paranoid, only because I have seen the effects on my daughter, and my daughter is a good 10 years older than your children. So we have seen the effects of this. This is not idle threat. This is true caution. This is like a worried parent to another worried parent saying, this is a trap. It's a bomb that's about to explode. It's a drug that's going to infect your children. Like, I don't know what words to use to tell you that you have no idea what's coming. So not to be naive. And this is for all parents listening. This is perhaps the most, toxic invention that we have given our children, which is this use of technology at such a young age, because it robs them of their capacity to, like you said, to knit, to dream, to read, and creates such social havoc. The comparisons and the bullying that goes on and the fitting in that comes about is all unhealthy for our children. So I really have nothing nice to say about giving a phone to our children. And you did it the right way. You waited for a long time. You were really on track, but be ready to take it back if she disappears into the phone, if the phone eats her up.
I don't even know if I'm ready. I'd like to give it to you when you're 16. And she's like, Mom, please, I don't want to go to high school with a flip phone. And I'm like, oh, you don't know. You don't understand what this is going to do to you.
Yeah.
That's why I'm trying to make it really boring. I told her, like, there's no social media. There's no games. There's no shopping apps. Snapchat.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how many filters are on Snapchat?
Right. You are a very wise mother, and you are doing it the right way. And even then, you're going to be surprised at how your daughter turns into a different human being. So you're going to have to continue being strong. You're very wise. I wish I was like you, and you're doing it right. So all I can say is keep it strict, keep it boring, keep it more boundaried now. and then give it in a year later. So she can get this for now, and then something else in 6 months, and then something else in 6 months. And the mistake that other parents make is that they give it all at one time. And they think that the child should be able to navigate it, but they can't. So you are doing it the right way. I mean, I really applaud you, but just keep being strong and don't give in.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course, of course. I'm so proud of parents like you who understand the risks so clearly.
You know what? I tried to preach, like when I did this workshop with you about screens,
Yeah,
I shared it like everyone. I was like, guys, we cannot do that. Like all my
right,
friends, I swear they all thought I was crazy.
right, right.
But I kept telling them, like, this is a drug. And I would tell my kids too. I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm not giving my kids drugs.
yes,
Honestly, some responses were like, well, I need to get a hold of my children and I'll just deal with the consequences later. And I'm like, just the information is coming, you know?
right. I think they are in denial of their own addiction and they aren't willing to take responsibility for that. And also, it's a way to not connect with your children, right? It's a way to let your children be raised by the screens. And it's much easier in a way to give in because then you don't have to hear your children complaining all the time.
And you know what? I tell you something, had I not, I don't think I could have done it myself, take away my children's iPads if I had not healed myself first. Because
Mm,
their cries and their screaming and their, fighting was such a trigger to me. I wasn't
yes.
able to regulate my own emotions,
Yeah.
never mind co-regulate with them. So for me, it was just easier to be just go on the iPad and everything's quiet and
Yes.
calm, cool, and collected.
Yes.
I can honestly, I understand if you cannot deal with your own stuff,
Yeah.
it's such a hard thing to do. I had such a hard time.
Yes. I mean, you just said something that's so valuable. I hope everyone's really listening. At the end of the day, your children's screen addiction is really about your own inability to handle difficult emotions. Look at what you just said. You said something so important because the child goes on the screens to numb themselves. We all go on the screen to numb ourselves. They go on the screen to distract themselves. Why? Because they cannot handle their big emotions or their boring emotions or boring life or the unpredictability of life, the unknowns of life. All of that gets soothed away when you numb yourself watching one movie after the other or one reel after the other. And if the parent is also like that, then that's going to be a house full of screen addiction and other addiction. And what you said is so powerful that it was only when you learned to deal with difficult emotions, only when you learned to soothe yourself without the screens, that you could actually help your children navigate their emotional dysregulation. I mean, that is just gold right there because that is the problem. When our kids cry, when our kids scream and they look bored or they look like they're not fitting in with their friends, then we get nervous, we get anxious, and then we want to give them, everything. But actually, that's not the answer. That is actually teaching them to give in to their addiction, to their drug,
That's
instead
right.
of finding their own inner strength.
Yeah. You know what? I never knew how to be bored. So I wasn't able to teach my kids that.
Yep.
So when I got off these iPads, like I could be bored now. I actually love just sitting with myself and
Yeah.
just sitting there because I finally found peace within myself where I can do that.
Wow.
So when they got off the phones after all the crying, I hate you, I hate this, it was like, you know, there was a storm. It was such a heavy storm. And then like the sun came out and these kids started like, my son started yo-yoing because they just started sitting with their boredom. And I told them like, it's okay to be bored. I'm interested to see what you do with it. It was okay to be bored.
Yeah.
Or I was just constantly trying to save them from being bored. And it was
Yeah.
like, slow down, And it was like, my other son started doing like all these things with a 3D pen. They
Amazing.
started picking up different things and they started before when they had like iPads, when they would get off their iPads, it's like they were a mess.
Yeah.
It would get loud, they would start fighting. And I'm like, wow, what is happening right now? They didn't know how to socialize with each other.
Yeah.
So the moment when these things just went away, it took some time,
Yes.
but eventually they were like, they're playing together. They're doing so many new things. And
Amazing.
it's just so amazing to see that.
Yeah, and I want every parent to hear you and feel reassured that when you allow your children, yes, it will take a little bit of while to adjust, but when you detox them, then they actually come back to life and they can connect and they play and they're so joyful and creative. And that's really a call for hope for every parent who thinks this is never going to end. The crying and the screaming is never going to end. They need to know, they need to stick it through, and then your children come back to who it is they are. You know, this has been such an amazing little episode with you, that you have taught us so much about how to have boundaries, how to sit with the boredom and the uncomfortable feelings. I think you're going to help so many parents. I cannot thank you enough, really, for coming on the show. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Wow, I learned so much from that mother. I learned that ultimately all our children's addictions and acting out, all of them come back down to how connected do our children feel to themselves. And their connection to themselves is so intimately connected to our connection with ourselves. And if we are constantly seeking distractions or numbing techniques or escaping the present moment, then we will not be able to help guide our children back to their center, back to their present, back to their own bodies. So when our children are acting out, screaming for the television or their screens, if that disturbs us and takes us off our center, then of course we're going to give them the screens and we're going to feed them that drug. But if we are stable inside and we are regulated and we understand that we have the power within us to regulate our children's emotions because we are regulated, then our children will learn that they don't need a screen to regulate them. They don't need a drug to fulfill them. Such powerful lessons. I hope you got a few insights as well, and I hope you will learn how to better navigate your children's addictions, screens or other addictions, in the same way, with the same inner regulation as this mother was teaching us. Coming up, a mother who wants to know the best way to parent her 8-year-old son, who she describes is an independent wild child. Joining me now is Tiffany. She wants to know the best way to parent her 8-year-old son, who she describes as an independent wild child. Okay, Tiffany, what's going on?
Okay, so Dr. Shefali, my son is really a character. What I keep feeling is that there's a lot of duality happening here, and I don't know which way to go sometimes with it. So basically, what he will do is we fostered with him a lot of independence and being strong-willed. And we said, we've told him how important that this is. And what happens is it tends to backfire when it comes to parenting, because he's this kid that basically will ask for forgiveness, not permission, which all of these things are really, really great characteristics for an adult. They're going to serve him so well later in life, but it just becomes challenging to really parent. And, we don't want to squash those characteristics that are going to be amazing for him. So sometimes it's just hard to figure out, like, how do we say no or not to do something when, we can see the merit behind it?
Yeah, well, if you can see the merit behind saying no, then saying no is also part of fostering independence. So here's the mythology, right? We think independence means they get to do whatever they want. But that is actually also crippling, because in this life, in this world, we are bound by constraints. We cannot do whatever we want. So actually, to be fully independent means to be able to know the difference between when can I do exactly what I want and when is it time to say I can't. And because you all are such forgiving, such open, such liberal, such easygoing parents, you don't have to be worried about curtailing or controlling him. You have to be worried about not teaching him that there are any boundaries. So you're erring on the side of, freedom and liberation. You're already doing good there. What you need to teach him is that, yes, and Sometimes, very few times, in a day or in a week, there are things you cannot do. I think you don't have to be afraid. You've made it a duality. It's a both and, not an either or. So part of raising independence is also saying no, because teaching frustration, teaching that you can be bored, teaching that you won't be gratified is also part of life's lessons, which will make them more independent.
Yeah, I love that. I love the idea of like for him to understand what those boundaries are, because we want him to be that kid that doesn't take no for an answer, right? Like he sees that within myself and he sees it within my husband that we don't take no for an answer. If there is something that we want, we continuously go for it, right? Like I have a business, I created a business, got left corporate America to start my own thing. And he sees that through every single challenge that I didn't take no. And I also try to point that out to him. And when it is that you do have to stop. And I feel like that's a really great point. So thank you so much.
Well, I can see why it's confusing. If you're going to tell him, don't take no for an answer, then that is tricky. See, so children are literal in their own way, right? They're confusing because children are very abstract, but then sometimes they'll just attach to a certain word, like, mommy, you said this, right? And then they become very rigid. So if you tell him, don't take no for an answer, then you are really burying yourself, right?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that to him because that is a very nuanced, complex kind of idea that only an adult mind can understand the nuances of that. What he needs to know is that mom and dad will not say no to you unless it's actually going to be life-saving or crucial or essential. And if you are convinced in your own body that you're not a controlling person, you'll only say no when it is total legit, then you can be empowered to say no. And you can tell him, I will not say no until it is an absolute no. So until that happens, you can be sure that you can have flexibility. But when I say no, it is a no. So pull that card only when you really need to pull that card.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what? It's funny because we talk about dreams a lot, like having big dreams and what these dreams are and manifesting and all these things. And he sees that. And now I see what you're saying about like them being very literal, because then his dream is to like build an ice rink and a Zamboni in my Florida room, so and he's seeing that, well, this is my dream right now, I'm going to dream to do this. And I see what you're saying. It's like really understanding that these dreams, like, I guess really like, how do you cap it at that point? Like that is his dream, but there is an unrealistic aspect that you can't make the floor real ice, like we have to use imagination.
Right. You can say there's a dream, but there's also something known as timing. Let me ask you again, how old is he? 8 years old?
He's 8. Yeah.
So maybe the question for you is, I think you're maybe pushing all these very complex ideas for a very young mind. And I know you want to teach him about manifesting and that anything is possible. But then I think you confuse him. See, he already thinks he can manifest anything. See, you don't have to worry. Children already think that life is limitless. They don't understand things like time or space or death like we do. So the fact that you're now saying all these things to him, you're actually complicating things even more. You're making his young mind feel confused. You don't have to worry about manifesting and things like that. That's for later. For right now, let him just be a kid and just enjoy the present moment and just go no is no and yes is yes and keep it very simple. I think you're over trying to teach him kind of like from this guru place and give him all this spiritual wisdom too early. There's no need. He's already in the zone. We are not in the zone. He's in the zone.
Yeah, I think he hears it too, just in what I do and the classes I teach and things like that, if he's overhearing me talking about it. And then he has questions. And also I do have an older son too, where he's asking questions about different things. And, he's 12 years old. He's always wanted to be an adult. From when he was a kid, he wanted to be like a little kid, a baby, he wanted to be an adult. So I think you're right. I'd like kind of sit back and think about, what does he already think? He does think everything is limitless. So that is a great point.
I would just be careful not to overcrowd the present moment with complex ideas at this age. It's okay. You can live those ideas. You can embody those ideas instead of discussing the ideas, because his mind is not ready to understand the nuances yet. He's in the being of them, but he's being it. But he also needs to know that there are limits, and limits is part of life, right? There is a season for when flowers blossom, but then there is a season when the flowers will die. So there are limits. That's nature's way of creating limits. So limits are not a bad thing. Limits can be healthy. And we can't do everything all at once whenever we want. Those are good lessons too. So I would just go with your wisdom. You're very wise. You know what to do. I think you're just overcomplicating it with these abstract, very abstract ideas.
Yeah. You know what? I think with what I'm doing is that I see where, because I, work with a lot of people with that working through traumas, limiting beliefs, fears, doubts, etc., and working with the nervous system. And I see where these limiting beliefs form in other people. I'm seeing where other people get tripped up in life, how they are held back. And I'm seeing it in my kids as I'm trying to really be the best parent for them. And I think we're all trying to do that. Almost like I don't want to take away their journey from them, with the things that they have to grow through and learn. And at the same time, I want to not have them have to go through unnecessary things. So it's like, if he knew that he was limitless, if he knew that he can't be stopped, what could you do?
I know.
How quick would you attain it? And I think that's where maybe I'm getting tripped up, because I just, Dr. Shefali, I mean, I see it so much, and I know you do too, where people just hold themselves back, and I don't want my kids to do that. I want them to just soar.
I know, but we're coming from an anxiety, right? You're coming from I want to make sure my kid knows everything that I, never knew and people don't know. But you're actually coming from the same anxiety, instead of, I'm just going to get out of his way, but I'm going to provide the boundaries that I need. And I'm going to trust him to figure out his own destiny. That brings calm and ease, versus I've got to tell him everything about manifestation and limiting beliefs and how to be present. And it's too much. Children are already present. They're already attuned. As long as you don't contaminate and mess it up, your child is going to be okay. But you're trying so hard, and that just shows that you're coming from anxiety.
Yeah.
It'll confuse things. It'll muddle things up.
That's such a good point. I never thought of it like that. That's beautiful.
You're already doing it. You need to trust you, actually. You are not your client's parent. You're somebody who's done a lot of work. So actually, you're not trusting yourself.
That's a mic drop for me. Thank you. Truly.
Because you know that things are not really inherited just by words. Things are inherited by the energy, by how things are, and the feeling in the house. So are you being that? Are you embodying that? Are you energetically transmitting that? Is your house reflecting that? Words are positive and powerful, but they only go that far. It's how he grew up. Let him be bathed in it rather than dictated to about it.
Yeah, I love that, cultivating the energy. And I think we do a good job of that. We're probably already doing it without needing to continuously show.
Exactly. Or say.
Or say it.
It's saying. The saying ultimately can be a voucher of great anxiety. Things like this. You're so good. You're so good. You're a good boy. Right? Okay, why are we saying it? It just should be a normal thing and a flowing thing and isness, right? Or we tell the child, do you see what mommy did? Right? Mommy said, thank you. We just become it rather than keep pointing it out, because the pointing out becomes obsessive. It becomes anxiety based. It becomes this beast of its own versus just flowing with it. He doesn't have to know these big words right now. He just needs to be in an environment where he's allowed to be who he is.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think that we do a good job of allowing him to be. laugh with him when he's, coming up with all these different things. When we try to explain it to him of why he can't, like make the
Right.
ice rink in our Florida room.
Right.
But, we try to explain it to him and he gets it after a little bit, but it's like, I can see it. He's trying to work it out in his mind. Well, why? Well, why? So I think you're right. Kind of like explaining to him why not now, time, space, etc. would make a huge difference.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you.
Sometimes we overcomplicate our own parenting in our earnestness, in our desire to impart all the wisdom in the world and to make sure our children understand that they are limitless or they are worthy. We sometimes make things a little bit more complex than they need to be. The most important thing that our children need from us is for us to come to them with a deep attunement, a consciousness, and an awareness of our own anxieties. And as long as we can manage those anxieties and own them and step out of the way, our children will be okay. So if we can just keep that in mind, we can make our parenting so much simpler. If you enjoyed listening to this episode and you want to learn more about how to be a conscious parent, check out my conscious community. I have tons of classes and courses and workshops and webinars and a whole community that is going through parenting struggles just like you are. This is the reason I created this conscious community, so that other parents could feel less alone and less isolated. If you're a parent who's looking for more insight and guidance for less than $25 a month, you can join my conscious community. It's called The Conscious Circle with Dr. Shefali. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope I see you on the next episode of Parenting and You with me, Dr. Shefali. Parenting and You with Dr. Shefali is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute for professional medical, psychological, psychotherapeutic, coaching, healthcare, or other qualified professional advice, diagnosis, or treatment.